So I wanted to interview you guys as part of Shacknews and get some info because I was really impressed with what you guys had set up at Derbycon. So I guess we could talk maybe for a second about how you guys got involved with Derbycon originally. Like, when's the first time you went to one?
I don't know the first date, honestly. I think it was either the first or second one.
So I was in California when they started. So the first one I made it to was like 2015, but you were...
This really started for me kind of as an alternative to, DEF CON and a lot of the other conferences that aren't here.
Yeah.
And I really look at it almost as my home conference, really. So, I mean, it's close. It's a 3.5-hour drive, so it's almost a no-brainer to come down here. But a lot of the folks that are founders of the conference are Ohio-based, and Josh and I are Ohio-based as well.
Yep.
So it's just kind of natural to migrate here.
Let me do your names real quick. You do your name and your, I don't know, what, do you have like a role?
Josh Valentine. I'm a Virgo. I like long walks on the beach and picnics.
Perfect.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm Kevin Finisterre. I guess I like long walks on the beach and picnics. Usually with
you don't
Josh,
have to like the
but
same thing.
Well, I mean we do because we're kind of. Josh and I have been doing all kinds of things together for way too long. We went to high school together. I've considered him my best friend for as long as I can remember. So, he's my best man in my wedding, and.
Man, I didn't even know it went that.
Yeah, so I've talked him into a lot of dumb stuff, and my OCD kind of led me into buying a pile of arcade machines, and Josh
tagged along.
Yeah, and he reminded me that when we were in high school, I used to drag him to the arcades back then. So
yeah, we used to dip out at lunch and go to the arcade 10 miles down the road at the local mall.
What was the game? What was the game that you had to
Our
play?
game then?
Jurassic Park.
Park. Lost
that's
World.
So fantastic.
So we'd
I hadn't seen
somehow
the new
he
one.
doesn't have
I just
one in
saw
his
the new
room
one
yet.
not long ago with my daughter, and I was like, "We're gonna play this." And she's like, "This seems kind of scary with these dinosaurs." I'm like, "No, trust me."
Yeah,
You're gonna
he's
like
been
it.
avoiding buying one and putting it in his garage for at least a year
They're just
now.
huge, right? But they're
Yeah,
cheap.
but-
You can scoop one for like $500.
Really? Yeah. $500.
Yeah.
What's up, brother?
That's awesome. So
about it was about April or May of 2018. So Kevin had
yeah, when you say scoop up a bunch,
So Kevin
how
had,
many? Because we see 7 of them at the Derbycon event.
Yeah, we've got 7 here now. There's 8 in my parents' garage. 3 that I need to pull in from the UK, and we have 15 that are currently sitting in customs being checked to make sure that we're not importing
There's nothing
keys
else
from
in the cabinet?
overseas, as it were. Yeah.
Nothing else in that cabinet.
So we started accumulating.
That's a lot.
Things. Yeah, so we started accumulating this last April or May. We started getting into it and started looking, and there were specific games Kevin was after. He's like, all right, what platforms do these play on? Right, so finding that led us down the path that we're on. And so Kevin picked up a couple, picked up one from auction, and Derbycon was coming up. And it's like, what, July? It's like, man, this would be dope to take these to Derbycon.
Yeah.
You know, it had changed venues last year, so new hotel, all kinds of stuff going on. So Kevin knows some of the guys who run the conference and hit him up and said, hey, what do you guys think about this?
Yeah, it was real last minute. Like, hey, can we bring these arcade machines? And they agreed to it, and we're like, okay.
Awesome. Now we got to get all those machines there.
Yeah, now we have a month to figure out how to make this happen.
So yeah, we rolled up with 3 last year, and we had to figure out where to put them, what we were gonna do.
How to drive a 26-foot box truck from Columbus to Kentucky, and where to park it, and how to get it in the loading dock, and all kinds of fun logistical stuff that we didn't even think we needed to know about.
Yeah.
Now we do.
Yeah, so last year was a hit, ton of people. Everybody was
Did you bring the
interested.
same number last year that you brought this year?
So we brought 6 this year.
Okay.
So last year we brought 2 drivers and then a sit-down candy cab. This year we brought...
Doubled it.
Yeah, 6. We bought 1 driver, a rhythm game, 2 stand-ups, and 2 sit-downs. So a wider variety, double the number of machines. And, we hit Dave and Martin and company up and said, hey, we want to bring twice as many this year. What do you guys think? And it was awesome. It was great last year.
Yeah.
Last year at the end of the conference, I thought this was awesome. Dave gave us a specific shout out in his closing
Yeah,
ceremony.
yeah.
He was like, I want to thank the team at the Marriott. I want to thank my team who runs Derbycon, and a special thanks to Kevin and Josh for bringing these arcade machines. So we knew it was awesome. Everybody was awesome. Their machines were busy the whole time.
A lot of great feedback from people that were playing.
I haven't seen one not being used. So
If they are, it's very short amount of time.
It's because you're either working on it, changing out the ROMs, or whatever's going on.
It's been really cool to. I like entertaining other people, so seeing people have fun, I'm getting some proxy enjoyment out of it. Basically, like I like the fact that people are having fun with my toys, basically. And some of the stuff is really rare too. There's a game up right
People don't
now.
even know what they're playing.
Yeah. There's a game in there now that's unless you've been to a Chinese arcade, back in the '80s, you probably have never played it. You might catch it on some emulation, but on bare metal and even coming across it, it's a gem to be able to bring and to let people enjoy, basically. So, I like that.
It's super cool. I'm like obsessed with it. As you know, I've been over there a million times, played every single thing available. So, so do you want to talk a little bit about the preservation element of like what you guys are doing? Because like you said, a lot of these are rare. I mean, it's all original hardware for the most part, right?
Yeah.
What's out there, so it's not like you're swapping it out with new stuff. It's all original.
If we swap a game, we're swapping out hardware that has the actual game on it. So, go ahead.
So what actually made me pick the platform that we're using primarily now, which is the NAOMI, Sega NAOMI, which is basically the arcade version of the home console Dreamcast. So
like 1998
Yeah.
right? It's like
So I still have my Dreamcast in a box back home, and there was a blog article that somebody put out about what's called de-suiciding Capcom CPS2 boards. So in a loose technical explanation of it, there's a decryption key stored on a chip on the board, which is backed up with a battery, and when the battery dies, you lose the decryption key, and then you can't play the game anymore. So there's a whole landscape around this de-suicided Capcom games, and they're expensive. I mean, Capcom stuff is pretty hot. The game titles are very popular. So you're looking at $300 to $500 for some of the more popular games just for that one title, and they're not small. I mean, they're pretty large cartridges.
Yeah.
I'm kind of imagining myself having a stack of these Capcom games in my room, and I'm like, I don't think that's really what I want to do with my life right now. So, and of course, I've gone the complete opposite, and I have a warehouse full of arcade machines, but.
I heard Parents Garage. That's really key. Parents Garage. You can drop those off.
So, the game that really was pushing me towards wanting to get arcade stuff in my house was Marvel vs. Capcom 2. And I've always, from the first time I saw the attract mode on that game, I thought it was dope. Like the music on the intro, the way they swirl the characters out. I mean, it's excellent game from start to finish. So, that particular game ran on both CPS2 hardware and on the Sega NAOMI, just by chance. So I started looking at the cost landscape difference for NAOMI versus Capcom. There's a huge, 150 some odd game titles that I could pick from. And I'm like, okay, this is pretty much a no-brainer for me. Even from the the size differences of the cartridges to
there's not a suicide problem with the NAOMI platform.
Exactly.
Right? There's not that setup where if the battery dies, you lose the encryption key, the game doesn't play. It's all built into the cart and the system, all on ROM chips that don't lose that memory and don't have the potential to lose that encryption.
And it's a pretty big piece of hardware, right? It's like
it's probably twice the size of a Dreamcast.
Okay.
So not huge, not compared to the not compared to the CPS platform, which is a lot bigger.
So as far as the preservation aspect of it, there are multiple platforms that all have their own nuances of what may lose that original game image. Even if it's just rust and corrosion and time, taking it over. So people are going through great efforts to, extract these images off of the machines and make sure that they're playable later. There's a group called MAIN, which emulates a lot of the old hardware, and so many of the ROM dumps go into enabling this MAIN project. But again, there's also people that still work with the raw hardware. So on this CPS2 specifically, They call it phoenixing. And it's a technique where you can basically preserve the game. So somebody has gone through and dumped all of the games in a decrypted state and saved them somewhere. And then what they've done is on the hardware, where there would normally be an AES key that was lost, they just reset it to all zeros, which then makes the game, or the cartridge be able to play the unencrypted game.
You rewrite the unencrypted game files back to the ROM chips.
And then there's probably a file with a directory listing of here's all the pieces it takes to run it, right? There's some kind of README file associated.
It depends on which platform you're working with and whatnot, but yeah, there's people have evolved this preservation into providing something they call a multi-cart, which is where normally you would have to go hunt down all these rare games and acquire each piece of hardware to play it. But now that there's ROMs that have been dumped, if you can get another piece of hardware that can act as a cartridge, and you can put that ROM onto it, then the actual console doesn't know the difference and will play it. So yeah, in that case, you may wind up with a really expensive cartridge that somebody's designed that does just have a pile of ROM images on it, and wait for you to select them and whatever. So each different game platform has these landscapes set up right now. So, but we're primarily sticking with the NAOMI stuff. You want to talk about the NetBoot process a little bit?
Yeah,
so there's definitely a hardware hacking element where you have to get these classic legacy pieces working. There's also like a software element where if we can't access the box, if the system can't receive updates, can't phone home to Sega, then it's not playable, right?
So some overlay, and those are some of the more advanced ones. So that's the analog to a DRM. Right. So these games are locked down where they have to have these specific steps in place before you can even play the game, and some of those include a phone home over the internet, and a lot of that requires a server, a local server from the game manufacturer, hardware manufacturer, and that uses a VPN to phone home, much like a Tesla does when it pulls into a Tesla dealership. Right, you pull in, it connects to the Wi-Fi at the Tesla dealership, it hits its VPN, uses OpenVPN to call back home to the mothership, as they call it, and does its thing. Some of the games work like that. Most of the games, though, work with local protections. Either it's a hardware level in a key chip that has an encryption key on it, or it's at the software level.
And some of them don't have anything at all. They're just flash chips with ROM code on them. So if you have the programming tool to clip onto it, you can just take the stuff right off.
So I've watched you guys swap stuff out like all throughout the event. Either changing out the games that are on the boxes or making changes to what. I don't even know what else you guys are doing, but it seems like you guys are working on them a lot. I think a lot of people thought you were fixing them, but really you were just swapping out games so people could try more stuff on what you have there.
Yeah, so Kevin had said, we were kind of locked into the NAOMI platform, and that's definitely what we brought last year, and that's about what half the machines are running on this year. We've kind of expanded it. So Kevin's gone back to the JAMA area, which is the previous area, and brought some of those platforms, 4 different platforms in that era. So if you want to play those games, it's not only just a platform change, it's the whole hardware, and on top of it, the interface is different. So it's a wiring difference. So the cabinets are wired up for both the modern type systems and some of the legacy systems. So when you swap it out, sometimes you have to swap some wiring. You're definitely swapping hardware. And it's even to the point where you have to swap some buttons out, right? Because some games, like Marvel vs. Capcom 2, are a 6-button game. Some of these other games, this Chinese game that he was talking about is what, a 2-button, 3-button game?
Yeah.
So there's a difference in control panel, right? So there's just...
So you can make hardware changes for the new software games that you're putting in the box.
And I'm a bare metal junkie. Like I want the old real hardware. Like you can, for example, you can maybe play Crazy Taxi on Nintendo Switch here really soon. Sega has ported their library and everything over to Nintendo, and they're already discussing it. For me, though, that's not Crazy Taxi. Like, it's just not. I don't care. We can argue till we're blue in the face. It ain't Crazy Taxi. Like I need the arcade machine, and so yeah, I'm about that bare metal aspect of it. The emulation is nice, but there's sometimes small glitches. There's timing differences, other artifacts of people copying the ROMs, and just make it not
Anybody that plays ROMs knows.
Yeah, the video can be glitchy. The sound is usually a telltale sign. It's usually glitched or
goes too
lag,
fast.
out of sync.
Even lag on the inputs, like you're trying to play Street Fighter and the timing is off, and so
So every one of those machines, we could throw a computer in and run MAME and run all those ROMs. Like, one, that's not legit. Two, it's arguably piracy. People hide under the guise of preservation. So we go the hardware route, and if you do that requires physically changing things. So that's, if you see us up there working, the machines, they're not broken. It's we're swapping out a game to get you the next hot game that we want to see played, and hopefully other people want to play.
And we made it a lot more complex this year. Last year it was all NAOMI stuff. So
Easy peasy to swap out.
what I asked Josh to explain earlier was the net booting process, and there's basically, towards the end of the era of the NAOMI hardware, Sega replaced the physical cartridges that you put into the game system with a network-capable cartridge. And they did have a DES key that plugs into this cartridge to be able to decrypt the game and then cram it down into the console and play it. So exact same thing happened. Somebody has gone through and decrypted all the games. There's something called a zero key, which is just AES all zeros. You stuff it in and you push the ROM over the network to the NAOMI, and then we've got access.
It's over Ethernet, right?
Yeah,
It's all have Ethernet. Yeah, everything's Ethernet.
So then we've got access to 100 and some odd games. So for NAOMI last year, you didn't see us pulling stuff in and out and moving things because we were literally, we had a web interface.
So Kevin coded up some Ruby for a web interface, and basically I had built I'd taken an ASUS Tinkerboard, which is an SBC, Raspberry Pi type board, a lot more powerful. So, anyways, threw Linux on it, tossed his Ruby web interface on there. It DHCPs addresses out to these network cards. So we have a drop down of all the IP addresses that have been built out to the machine. Have a drop down with a list of all the ROMs we have access to, and you just select the IP, select the game, and push it to the system.
So from that preservation standpoint, I have a box that's like this big and this tall, full of NAOMI cartridges, and I've been collecting all the Pokemon, trying to buy all the cards that I can. I don't bring those to the con though. We'll push the net boot version of an image that we dump off of those cards, so that we're not putting our physical hardware at risk.
Right.
I mean, these are 20-year-old pieces of plastic, right? If we all know how one
all
of
the
the
metal
first 20
degrades, so many
plastic is brittle, and you're pushing these plastic interfaces in and out. You can just put that net dim in. We both have a list of all the games we own, all the games we've done. We're gonna push those games that we own without swapping the physical card to risk damage. So take Marvel vs. Capcom 2 for example. That's a $200 card. You went on eBay right now, they're $250, $300. You can catch them for $200 or less on other platforms. I'm gonna be really sad. I'm gonna be a sad panda if I'm pushing my Marvel vs. Capcom 2 cartridge in and the plastic, interface snaps on it.
Or some joker didn't read the sign that says "keep your food and drink off my damn machine" and bumps their water into my Marvel.
I don't know who would do that.
Yeah, who would do that?
You almost got shanked, dude. You know who you are.
So that's the convenient part. That's the nice part about the NAOMI system is we can push all those games without potential damage for hardware.
Not as complex as a lot of the stuff I deal with at work on a day-to-day basis. So it's like, I'm dealing with late 90s tech. It's almost kind of relaxing.
Late 90s tech is the best tech, so it's fine. It's all the best.
But all these platforms have different nuances about the way they like to be turned on, or just the way they like to be maintained, or what breaks, and we basically have a subset of arcade devices that we're very knowledgeable in, and are using those to basically empower our fleet of machines, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, so you do have quite a fleet that's growing. So what's your future plan with the fleet? So we know you do volunteer events, and let people play them just out of the kindness of your heart, but I kind of feel like there might be a next step for you guys because
We've talked
what
about
you're
a
doing
bunch
is
of
pretty cool.
Yeah, we've talked about a bunch of stuff. So I mean, it's all the way from approach a local business and put a machine or two in there and
Rental.
Like even here, like where we're at now, there's 4 machines around us. That this is the shop owner. I learned as a collector. He apparently has a bunch of machines at his house.
That tabletop one is
He
pretty,
rotates them in
pretty
and out of
epic.
his business. So, we hook up with somebody like that, and we help with their gaming menu, basically.
Kevin had mentioned that there's 8 or so machines in his parents' garage, right? There's a space that we can store these and open it up 1 weekend a month and invite friends over to come play the machines.
Rent it out as a party room.
Rent it out as a party room. And then all the way to open an arcade. I mean, the type of machines we're messing with, you'll see them onesie-twosies at arcades. If they're a collector, an arcade operator who has some nostalgia for this era, you might find there was one in Columbus, some dude had a handful, but out of the 50 machines, he maybe had 4 or 5. You mostly see onesie-twosies. You go to like 16-bit downtown Cincinnati, they don't have Japanese candy caps. They're all woodies.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, so it's all the way. I think it's all the way from rentals, onesie-twosies, to a full-blown arcade full of Japanese candy caps.
And the flip side of it is we're also being selfish collectors. So this is all stuff that we like, stuff that we want.
If we don't do anything, we still have a pile of cabinets that we love.
Yeah. So and this stuff it's not getting any cheaper. It's appreciating in value at this point. So there's multiple different candy cabs that people like, and this is the last era of CRT cabs that Sega made, and they start moving into LCD cabs. So most of the people right now are tweaking out on the 2 cabs just before this one, and they haven't really figured out that these are pretty much the next hot item. So we've spent the last year kind of entrenching ourselves in the community of people that like these cabs, finding out where to pick them up, figuring out where to get them overseas, and doing the imports from like Italy and the UK. And
Don't tell them too much.
Yeah, right.
you can't talk
I'm
to my
editing this
plugs.
out.
Yeah, they can't talk to my plugs. They can know where they're at, but so it's one of those things like here in about 5 to 10 years, we're going to have a pile of these machines that other people are just now tuning into wanting. The ones that they're working
And
with now.
interfaces to swap out games and do the support of them, which is
We'll be
really
all
the hard
set up
part,
and ready to
right?
roll,
That's
you
the
know?
hardest part. Nobody has the knowledge anymore to know how to do it, or is willing to take the time to learn it. So
Exactly.
That's
So
why it's pretty powerful what you're doing. So.
we're basically queued up to have fun one way or the other, and we both talked about it. Worst case scenario, I mean, we have a fire sale on our cabs, get rid of them, and go find something else to OCD on. I think it's a win-win, kind of however we cut it, and I haven't regretted anything at this point, short of maybe the bulky size and
Need to get U-Haul to get
Wait.
around, right?
Oh yeah, we need to
Throw it on a round chip.
We need to
throw
buy
on some LCD TV, and you're good to go. Yeah.
We need to buy a truck with a lift gate.
Tesla semi, dog,
Yeah,
and
we
start
need
moving
Tesla.
these things. I mean,
We can get that sponsorship
With a
hooked
lift
up.
gate.
We got to figure out how to do that.
We joked about buying a cargo ship, because we're moving containers across the sea now. Like,
rental, maybe. You might want to rent that.
I don't know what we did.
It seems like a losing.
hey man, if I come up on a good cost on a cargo ship, I'm gonna do me. Do it for Shacknews.